Welcome, President Pilecki, President Tad Pilecki. Can I call you Tad?
Sure.
You're our current board president. You've been a board member for how long?
About 8.5 years.
8.5 years, a long time. Now, you've got a very interesting background because you're a former Central San employee. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be a board member and just that unique perspective that you bring?
Sure. Although I've been a Central San employee for 25 years, that's not my entire background.
Oh.
I also was employed as a consulting engineer in the wastewater field in the private sector for about 10 years. And couple that with the fact that I have both a bachelor's and master's degrees in civil and in wastewater engineering, and also a master's in business administration focused on finance and accounting, I think bring very unique qualifications to the board. So when I retired in 2012, about the same time, one of our long-term board members, Mario Menacini, decided it was time to retire. And so I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity. I have, the background, the education, and a lot of knowledge about Central San. I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to give back to the community. That's kind of what got me into this, and well, history's shown I've been here 8.5 years now.
That is a long career in engineering, management, wastewater. What's the total number of years, or do you not want to count them up? That's okay if you don't.
Well, it's actually over 40 years when you count the board experience. And I count that because as a board member, I put in 15, 20 hours a week. It feels like a half-time job, although some weeks a full-time job.
So over 40 years, you have seen a lot of change. What is the biggest change that you've seen at Central San?
Now, I think that would be a fair question for someone that's been here 5, 7 years. You look at me, I've been here over 33 years at Central San. So I can't pick one significant change, but I'll give you kind of a perspective of some of the major changes. When I started back in '86, our capital program was $4 million a year.
Only $4 million?
Yes, and you compare that to now, where in a couple of years, we're going to be hitting $120 million a year. If you take a look at our collection system back in '86, we were having 200 to 300 overflows a year. Today, we have 22 overflows in our most recent year, and there's no capacity overflows.
Using that overflow number, which is a reliability number, how does that compare Central San as an agency with other agencies in the state or in the nation?
Well, you need to be very careful how you compare, because if you live in a dry climate that's very flat, you're going to have very few overflows.
Okay.
You look at Central San, though, we're in a wetter climate, and we are in a hilly terrain. If you go out and look at Orinda and Lafayette and Moraga, and so you would expect a lot more overflows than, let's say, somewhere like LA in Southern California. Central San, so our numbers, which is about 1.9 overflows per 100 miles, which is a normal metric, is about a third of what other agencies in our service or our neck of the woods, the San Francisco Bay Area, are doing.
So we're considered like a top performer.
We are the top performer.
The top performer. Okay, great.
Okay, continuing on, there's some other changes.
Please.
Take a look at our computers. When I started, we had one computer on the second floor for like 25, 30 employees.
Really?
Today, we have computers on every desk, and we have computerized maintenance systems. We have our geographic information system all computerized. We have our asset management computerized. Everything's computerized, and we just went through and replaced our enterprise resource planning, which is our accounting system.
I was going to say,
completely.
For the folks at home.
And so computers were a big change. You also take a look at HHW. When I started, we didn't have a household hazardous waste facility, which is what HHW stands for. We didn't have a source control program or stormwater or any of those programs or pharmaceuticals. Today, take a look at HHW, we collect 2 million pounds a year of household hazardous waste. So I could go on, but every one of those really changed who we are as an agency and how we do business.
So as a board member, with all of this change, and you've just, the list is long, how does the agency stay up to date with the latest technology and making sure basically the service is top notch for the customer?
Well, number one, we're in innovation. For example, looking again in construction, when I first started here in '86, everything was open cut. Very disruptive to the community.
What is open cut?
Open cut is just a big excavator going down the middle of your street, tearing the pavement up and leaving a trench blocking the road, and usually resulting in significant traffic delays, not to mention noise and dust and everything else.
Okay.
Well, if you look at today, we've implemented trenchless technologies. And over 50% of our construction activity out in the community is utilizing trenchless technologies such as pipe bursting or directional drilling, pilot boring, tunneling, cured in place pipe. So a lot of different technologies, of which many of them, like the pipe bursting and the directional drilling, Central Sand was actually the first municipal agency in the United States to actually implement and use those technologies. So we've been a leader in that, for example.
Okay.
But we also, one of the things is we're committed to looking at all different technologies. We participate with WEF, Water Environment Federation, in research projects. We're doing a oil or energy recovery from sludge project here shortly. And we hire good people. That's the other big thing.
I'll take that as a compliment to me too.
I mean, it's very important because, we're only as good as the people we have.
True. You know a lot about Central Sand. I'm going to hold you to one response. I know it's very difficult to answer. Of all the things that we do, and we do a lot of them you've mentioned, what is your favorite program? You only have to pick one, or you can only pick one.
This is a very unfair question because you're not supposed to have a favorite child or whatever.
I know.
So I had the opportunity in my career to not only just work in engineering the capital program, but also in our permit counter and right-of-way. I worked very closely over the years with purchasing and HR and with our accounting departments developing various procedures and criteria on how we do things. A lot of people don't realize that I was the interim director of plant operations for a brief period, and also for a much longer period, the interim director of collection system operations. So I know this district probably worked with 95% of the people here at the time. And so the big thing that always impresses me is the commitment that the employees have to meeting our mission, which is protect public health and the environment, and while doing that, exceptional customer service. So it's the commitment and exceptional customer service that I see that's unique through all of Central Sand
that goes across all the programs.
Across all the programs, and I really want to emphasize that. And this way, I'm not having a favorite child.
All right, I'll take that. That's an excellent response, and I agree with you. Customer focus is number one. Now, very seriously, we have some significant construction projects ahead of us. Can you touch on some of the major projects that Central Sand is embarking on?
Sure.
And why, if you could?
Let's start with a little bit of background as to how big our capital program is and what's driving it. Now, there's 4 criteria that we look at. One is renewal or replacement. Another is regulatory requirements that come in and say, now you have to meet this air standard or this water quality standard. Another is capacity. Do you have enough capacity to carry the flow to the plant, or do you have enough tankage to treat the wastewater? And finally, one that's becoming very important is sustainability. And that is making sure that we're making good use of our the resources that we have available to us, like recycled water. That's a good example. So when we start to apply that criteria, we find out that we have about $1 billion worth of work that we have to do over the next 10 years. Almost 50-50 split between treatment plant and collection system.
$1 billion is a significant amount of money.
That is a significant amount of money. But let me kind of run through some of the projects we got going right now. In construction right now, we have about a $35 million construction project aimed at our major pump stations in the Orinda-Moraga area, where we're going in and rebuilding the pumps, the piping, replacing the electrical equipment, all because it's timed out. It's past its useful life.
Okay.
The other big project we got going right now is our filter plant, phase 1 project, which is about $35 to $40 million. And we're replacing our clear well, which holds the water prior to distribution, as well as upgrading some of our electrical. Another big project that we're just going to go out to bid here very shortly is our solids handling project. This project's about $180 million. It's one of the bigger projects that we're doing as a district. And it's focused mostly on reliability and renewal. Our furnaces were started up in around 85, 86, but they were built even earlier than that. And so they're getting to their useful life. And all of the air pollution control equipment's aged out. All of the centrifuges and cake pumps and control systems and control room is all met its useful life. And so we need to replace all of that. Some other projects that we're just now getting into the design phase is our aeration and steam system project, which is looking at replacing some of our blowers with electric blowers to make sure that we have the ability to run blowers during a power outage with our generators.
Now, for the customers that may not know our process, where are the importance of blowers?
Well, blowers add air into our biological system, which keeps the bugs alive that eat the waste particles that are in our wastewater.
Okay.
And so it's very important that we keep them alive, because once they die, then we lose our entire system, and it could take days to weeks to bring that back up if we lose it. So it's very important. So as part of that project, we're also looking at our aeration tanks where the bugs live and we pump the air into. We have to replace all the diffusers there. A lot of the piping needs to be rehabilitated, as well as the seismic components of those tanks. So that's another $65 million project. We're also looking at about a $30 million project to replace our UV facility.
Okay. When
I first started here, we disinfected our wastewater prior to discharge to the bay using chlorine gas. So if you can imagine, we had two 50-ton tank cars of chlorine gas delivered to the treatment plant all the time. And chlorine gas is very dangerous from a safety perspective. It can kill people. UV doesn't nearly have that kind of exposure. But we were one of the first facilities to put it in, a UV facility of the size that we have, able to treat about 90 to 110 million gallons per day. And so now we're looking at going to either second or third generation UV replacement for that, because it's, again, aged out. Some other projects that we have going is we've spent hundreds of millions of dollars in our collection system because our pipes are aging, timing out. And so we have an extensive program that looks at the condition of pipes and identifies which ones to be replaced. And probably a lot of our ratepayers have seen us out there doing these projects, because we've been at it for over 20 years, and we'll be at it for the next 100 years and on, because it's an ongoing program. Two big projects that we have out there that need to be talked about a little bit is our recycle water program. We're looking at exchanging 20 million gallons a day of recycled water. What happens is we have the water district supplies potable water to the refineries.
So water districts handle the water, drinking water supply or potable water supply.
Okay, and then that goes to the refineries. Well, what we're looking at is taking 20 million gallons of our recycled water, which right now is just being discharged to Suisun Bay, and using that in lieu of the potable water supply to the refineries. That then frees up that 20 million gallons and allows Contra Costa Water District to send that water to Valley Water, which is down in the South Bay, because they have a serious water shortage. And given that we're in a drought again, and probably going to be in a drought on a regular basis now, because of climate change. Right. This is a very important project, but it also has a very steep price tag, anywhere from $200 to $300 million.
Wow. So Tad, the theme I'm hearing from all of these, and the list is so long for the need for infrastructure replacements, is Central San as an agency isn't just going, okay, let's replace that and let's replace this, but we're doing significant upgrades as well. And that seems to be also the component of the cost. And what I'm hearing from the board and others is that this is meant to have longevity. And so I want to talk to you about your priorities. I know that infrastructure's got to be one of them. What other priorities do you have in the next 5 or 10 years for Central San as an agency?
Well, my number one priority is that we continue to protect the public health and the environment by properly collecting, treating, disposing, and recycling of wastewater while maintaining exceptional customer service. That's who we are, and we're not going to ever change that one. The second one is the capital program. We're talking about $2 or $3 billion. And one of my priorities there is, are we looking at new technologies that might be cheaper operationally, less power costs, or lower capital costs that we can implement? Are we also making sure that we're maximizing the useful life of our existing equipment? That's why part of all of these projects I was just talking about, we've now implemented extensive condition assessment to make sure that we're not replacing equipment before its time is up.
Right.
Now, another priority, and this is an obvious one, is recycled water. We need to get a program going. If you go down Southern California, where I'm originally from, recycled water, that's, it's like an afterthought. Everybody uses it, and they're actually even using it as a potable water supply in places. Well, we're hoping that this water exchange project, where we have Contra Costa Water and Valley Water working with us, will bear some fruit with respect to that. The last priority I have is our employees. We are who we are because we have good employees. So it's very important to me that we continue to have programs to help them develop, such as our management academies, our supervisory academies, the mentorship programs, and that we are making sure that they are competitively compensated and have good benefits. Because if we keep them happy, we continue to be an award-winning organization that's an industry leader.
From a customer perspective, what role does the customer have in the oversight of Central San? How might they get involved?
Well, this is one of the areas that I think we have not been as successful as we would like, and it's not through any fault of our own. If you look at Central San, we're what they call a sole source special district. Okay. And our sole purpose special district. And what we do is collect, treat, dispose, and recycle wastewater. Not very sexy, something that,
it's
the
sewage.
public.
Let's call it
exactly.
It's sewage, right?
It's not something that the public's not really interested in, especially when you take into account that Central San does a very good job at it. We've got our overflows under control. Our rates are very right in the middle of the pack compared to other agencies. So the old adage, out of sight, out of mind, or flush and forget, which...
so our success is ultimately, right, why we don't hear from a lot of customers.
We don't hear from a lot of customers. And so what we've been doing, and your group's part of that, is we've been reaching out, through having our pipeline that goes out twice a year.
Our newsletter. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes, that's our newsletter. And also, we have the Central San Academy. Take a look at what we've done with the kids, pipe protectors, sewer wizards, water science, all the various programs, and some of them, I understand, were award-winning.
They were. We're doing really well.
Yes. Then you also take a look at one of the big technological changes, YouTube videos and Facebook and Twitter accounts and everything. So we're trying to get the word out to
We're making
customers.
wastewater interesting, aren't we?
We're trying to make it interesting. We're trying to let people know about it.
So I want to end on a real fun note. I want to know what your Central San or fun knickknack is. Whether or not you had it as an employee or you have it on your desk at home, I want to hear something fun that you have that kind of tips the hat to what we do in wastewater.
I don't know if it tips the hat, but something that you probably don't know about is that I was the central repository of all pictures dealing with employees at Central San.
Oh, really?
Here.
So you've got lots of younger looking people, is that what you're saying?
All kinds of pictures.
Back in the day when we all looked better, right?
And I still have some of those pictures posted at home. We have them framed, like the big group pictures of all the employees. So Central San, my wife worked here at Central San, so between the two of us, we have 56 years of service at the district. So we have tons of memorabilia, but our favorite are the pictures.
Well, your commitment to the agency is clear. If nothing else, in years alone, you certainly win the award for that. So thank you for your service as a board member, and I'm hoping the folks at home got a little bit better insight into you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about the district, and where I think it's going, what the priorities are.
Thank you. Thank you, Tad.